neuroinflammatory link. What the hell is this? So hormone withdrawal can actually increase susceptibility to neural irritation and the perception of what are called phantom sounds. Welcome to Hormones Happen, the no-fluff podcast for men and women who are tired of feeling stuck in someone else's body. If you've been dragging through your day, struggling with stubborn weight, low sex drive, brain fog, or just feeling off, you're not crazy, and you're definitely not alone. I'm a nurse practitioner who's helped countless people transform their lives through hormone replacement therapy, and I've been through the journey myself. Here, we cut through the confusion, ditch the shame, and talk real solutions. Because it's time to stop just surviving and start thriving. This is your moment to be the hero of your own story. Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Hormones Happen. Last time, we talked about the 5 most common symptoms of menopause, and today, we're going to talk about the 5 least common, but still very clinically significant. So once again, guys, hey, tune in. This is good information for us all to know. All right, guys. Number 1, joint and muscle pain. In the medical world, we call this arthralgias and myalgias. Now, what causes this? So when we're talking about muscle and joint pain, the main players here are the estrogen receptors in connective tissue, cytokine imbalances, and pain threshold alterations. So estrogen modulates inflammation and maintains collagen synthesis in our joints. When it's deficient, it leads to synovial joint fluid inflammation and cartilage degradation. Synovial joint fluid is essentially the fluid inside the joint that helps with lubrication and nourishment. With our cytokines, low estrogen leads to pro-inflammatory, what are called cytokines, specifically like interleukin-1, interleukin-6, tumor necrosis factor alpha, several of these guys, and they contribute to musculoskeletal discomfort. Now, estrogen affects our central pain perception, and when it's low, our pain thresholds are decreased. Regarding literature around all of this, studies have shown that 40% of postmenopausal women report joint pain, and HRT has been shown to significantly reduce joint stiffness and pain, particularly in early users. Now, I've seen time and time again that a woman will come in with frozen shoulder, which is where you have this capsule around your shoulder that's essentially connective tissue that becomes compressed and it becomes tight and mobility becomes limited. Well, believe it or not, guys, frozen shoulder is a symptom of menopause, a very underdiagnosed and undertreated symptom, but these are the reasons why. Number 2, tinnitus and auditory changes. Now, tinnitus is a ringing in the ear, guys. And what causes these changes, right? Several different mechanisms. Estrogen and cochlear function, microvascular changes, and neuroinflammatory links. Estrogen, believe it or not, estrogen receptors in the cochlea regulate auditory neurotransmission and ionic balance. It helps with the transmission of sounds, but it also helps with your depth perception and sensory of your place in time and space. Hormonal decline can actually affect blood flow to the auditory nerve and the inner ear structures. And as we all know, when we're restricting blood flow to an organ, it results in death of that tissue. And then neuroinflammatory link. What the hell is this? So hormone withdrawal can actually increase susceptibility to neural irritation and the perception of what are called phantom sounds, which is another word for that tinnitus. Now, from a study in Menopause Journal in 2021, it identified a significant correlation between hormone fluctuations and the increased incidence of tinnitus in perimenopausal women.
Testosterone isn't just a guy thing. Women need it too. The problem? No one's been paying attention until now. At Still City HRT and Weight Loss, we prioritize you with personalized treatments designed to restore balance and help you feel your best. If you're ready to start taking back control, call or text 719-669-4223 now.
Number 3, most unlikely symptom, burning mouth syndrome, BMS. Several reasons for this, guys, and as unlikely as this is, I've had several patients report this to me. It's caused from mucosal estrogen dependence, neuropathic, and salivary changes. So oral mucosa, much like the vaginal epithelium, is estrogen sensitive. And loss of estrogen leads to dryness, atrophy, and this burning sensation. Estrogen also protects peripheral sensory nerves. And when it's decreased, it can increase your susceptibility to oral dysesthesia or the sensation deficits in the oral mucosa. And lastly, reduced estrogen decreases salivary flow, which alters the enzyme activity, just like we talked about with changes in pH causing frequent urinary tract symptoms in the vaginal mucosa. pH changes in our mouth can actually lead to issues such as thrush, which are fungal infections. Now, regarding the literature, this burning mouth syndrome, BMS, can affect 18 to 33% of postmenopausal women. Some women respond well to topical or systemic estrogen therapy, but sometimes these are idiopathic, meaning we just don't know what causes them. In all the incidences that I've seen, the HRT has done very well at helping to alleviate these symptoms. All right, number 4, this is a biggie, guys. Palpitations and irregular heartbeats. This is deep. There's a lot of things to this. So I'm just going to talk about the 3 most relevant causes of this. But we have autonomic dysregulation, estrogen and ion channels, and we have indirect effects via anxiety or hot flashes. So estrogen supports what's called parasympathetic tone, and the loss of this shifts the balance towards what we call sympathetic dominance, which is basically what predisposes you to these palpitations. It's your fight or flight response, whereas parasympathetic is more of your rest and digest type response. Now, estrogen also modulates what are called cardiac ion channels, and that affects the way that the electrical activity of our heart basically has its rhythm, specifically the QT interval. And deficiencies of this hormone could potentially lead to arrhythmias or just these abnormal cardiac conductions of the heart. Now, palpitations often accompany these symptoms independently, but oftentimes anxiety and the hot flashes can also be precipitating factors. So those vasomotor symptoms, those mood dysregulations can also play into the palpitations as well. Now, women in early menopause, they typically report what are called fluttering or this racing heart for almost no reason. And this is often resolved with hormone replacement therapy. I've had women come in and say that they've had these palpitations and they've had extensive cardiac workup, normal EKGs, normal stress tests, normal Holter monitors where you're wearing an EKG for prolonged periods of time, up to 2 weeks, and they're not catching any of these significant arrhythmias. It's hard to say, guys. Palpitations are hard to catch in general, but there is a known correlation between estrogen decrease, hormone deficiency, and palpitations. And lastly, electric shock sensations and paresthesia. So this one's a pretty interesting one, and I've seen it mostly on the earlobe. I've seen these paresthesias or this shocking sensation on either the earlobe or the upper lip. Those are the 2 places that I have had it reported to me. And believe it or not, it has resolved with hormone replacement therapy. So estrogen's neuroprotective role is a cause, estrogen withdrawal effects, and central sensitization. So estrogen is very supportive of what's called the myelin sheath integrity. And not only that, but it also supports and modulates nerve excitability. So it has a lot to do with the conduction of our nerves. Now, estrogen can also heighten nerve sensitivity, and it can trigger this spontaneous firing or even misfiring of the nerves when we have a decrease of it, a deficiency. And then, of course, declining estrogen can also lower the threshold for abnormal nerve sensations, which include those little tingles or those zaps that you get. And although rare, paresthesia and zapping sensations, they are documented for menopausal symptoms. And it's been shown to improve with estrogen therapy, especially, and this is important, especially and if other neurological symptoms or causes are excluded. And although rare, these paresthesias and zapping sensations are documented in menopausal symptom inventories, right? And they're shown to improve with hormone replacement therapy, specifically estrogen therapy. Now that we've talked about some of the 5 least common symptoms of menopause, how does HRT help to alleviate that? How does this help us, guys? Because this is what we really want to know. Well, HRT does a lot of things. Let's start with the arthralgias and myalgias, right? The joint pain and muscle pain. Well, estradiol suppresses those pro-inflammatory cytokines. Do you guys remember interleukin 1, interleukin 6, TNF alpha, right? It basically suppresses those and it decreases that discomfort. It helps to support and enhance what are called fibroblast activity, which is essential for our collagen integrity. It adds joint lubrication and it increases our tissue resilience, right? It makes our bones stronger. We all know this. We know the leading cause of osteoporosis is estrogen deficiency. This is not new information, not to you guys. And then, of course, HRT has been shown to increase serotonin and endorphin levels, right? This is going to elevate our pain threshold. It's going to reduce our perception of pain. It's been shown women on transdermal estradiol report fewer musculoskeletal complaints compared to non-users. And that's especially beneficial within 5 years of menopause onset.
Loving this content? Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok for even more insights. And hey, while you're there, don't forget to like, comment, and share. It really helps us grow. Now, let's get back to the podcast.
All right, tinnitus and auditory changes. What is HRT going to do for me here, Jeremiah? Well, estrogen modulates ionic transport and neurotransmission in the inner ear, right? And it reduces this auditory hypersensitivity, this just ability to pick up these sensations and cause that tinnitus or that ringing in the ear. It also helps to support the endothelial function and it improves the microvascular perfusion, just like we talked about last time about improving blood flow to the vaginal mucosa. It's also going to go ahead and help support our central nervous system and lessen that auditory signaling that's linked to the tinnitus. Now, one caveat to this, though, is that there can be a lot of causes of the auditory changes in tinnitus, and it is always important with a lot of these rare symptoms we're talking about to have it looked at in a complete manner, to rule out any neurological or structural causes before we look at the hormones. Granted, these can happen with hormones. There are other complications that can cause these as well. Now, what about burning mouth syndrome? What is HRT going to do for us? Well, estrogen replenishes the integrity and the moisture of the oral mucosa, just like the vaginal mucosa. Estradiol stimulates salivary glands. It improves lubrication and balances out the oral pH. It also stabilizes peripheral sensory nerves, and it reduces that oral dysesthesia or that neuropathic pain. It also stabilizes peripheral sensory nerves and reduces that oral dysesthesia or that neuropathic pain. All right, guys, this is a biggie. Palpitations and irregular heartbeat again. What is HRT going to do for those? Well, estrogen enhances the parasympathetic activity and it counters that sympathetic output that causes those palpitations, that anxiety, that nervousness. It also modulates potassium and calcium currents and what are called cardiomyocytes, just basically specialized tissues within the heart. And it improves that rhythm stability of our heart. And it also, once again, alleviates the hot flashes and the anxiety, which also go hand in hand with some of those palpitations. And just like I said before, although hormone deficiency can cause these things, I would never say the first cause, right? You always got to rule out the other more important issues first. And now, what about those electric shocks and those paresthesias? Well, like we said, estradiol is very supportive of the myelin sheath. It enhances the myelin maintenance and supports the nerve repair pathways, which potentially could reduce the misfiring of them. It also restores GABA, serotonin, dopamine balance. These are all neurotransmitters in the brain. It helps to lower central and peripheral nerve hypersensitivity, which we talked about. But it also lowers inflammation, right? It lowers the inflammatory load, which reduces the neuroinflammatory signals that contribute to these nerve-related sensations that we have. All right, guys, time for a little Q&A here. And remember, these questions are being answered directly from you guys when you send them to hormoneshappen@stillcity-trt.com. So if you have a question that you want to ask, send it to the email and we'll feature it on a podcast. Suzanne from California. I was told that the GLP-1s can cause vision issues by my OBGYN. I already have bad eyesight. Am I still a candidate for treatment? This is a very common misconception about the GLP-1's effects on your vision. So as far as GLP-1s, if you have diabetic retinopathy, which is a microvascular disease of the eyes, the optic nerve, the blood flow to the eyes from the diabetes, and we're rapidly correcting your blood sugar, we can have some transient changes in your vision. 1. 2, if we're rapidly changing your blood sugar, meaning you have a high blood sugar, we're decreasing it with these GLP-1s, we could have fluid shifts, which could also cause some vision changes. But this whole thought that these GLP-1s cause necrosis of the eye, or I've heard people say they cause your eyes to rot out. This is absolutely incorrect. GLP-1s are incredibly helpful for the body, incredibly safe. If anything, they are preserving your eyesight. Now, depending on your level of insulin resistance and how hyperglycemic or how high your blood sugar is, there could be some adjustments. That's why I highly advocate for low and slow dose titrations. Joe V from Minnesota. I've been using a 25% testosterone cream twice daily for 3 months, and my levels are not getting over 1,000. I feel pretty good, but think I might need the injections. Also, my scrotum didn't shrink at all! Exclamation point. Well, Joe, that 25% testosterone cream, that's a pretty high strength cream. Technically, the strongest you can get these creams is about 20%, right? When you have a cream, you're putting basically a solid liquid, you're getting a cream, and 20% seems to be the most stable, highest concentration formulation available. Can you do 22, 25? I've seen as high as 30, but a lot of it gets precipitated out. So with the effectiveness of your cream, let's talk about some housekeeping rules on it. 1, where do you apply this cream? To the scrotum. 2, you got to shave the scrotum, right? And I'm not talking clippers, but I'm talking a razor, because any hair on that scrotum is going to interfere with the absorption of the cream into the capillaries. So twice a day application of the cream to a shaven scrotum, shaving every other day, and your levels will skyrocket. Another tip I can give you is, instead of using the self-applicator, which a lot of these come in, which work fantastic for women, for us guys to really get it into that scrotum, we're going to want to go ahead and get our fingers, wipe the top of the cream applicator, get the cream off, use our fingers to rub it into the scrotum, just like you would sunscreen or lotion. You really want to make sure you rub that cream in. And if you follow those practices, Joe, I'm sure you're going to get those levels well over 1,000. I have several patients who are over 1,500 on 20% testosterone cream with those application practices. Let's get real for a second. Yeah, aging happens, but feeling exhausted, struggling with sleep, losing your edge in the bedroom, and watching your confidence tank, that's not just getting older. That's a hormonal imbalance, and you don't have to live with it. They'll tell you hormones are dangerous, but hand you a prescription with a mile-long list of effects. Enough is enough, guys.
At Still City HRT and Weight Loss, we cut through the noise. We offer safe, bioidentical hormone therapy customized to you and backed by real lab monitoring and personalized care. Because your health isn't one size fits all. If you're done with the BS and ready to feel like yourself again, strong, focused, and confident, call or text us at 719-669-4223. Let's build a plan that actually works for you. Still City HRT and Weight Loss. Be the hero of your own story.
Jess from Colorado. I'm currently on HRT with transdermal estradiol and testosterone. I take an oral micronized progesterone every day, but feel super drunk the next day. My doctor recently decreased it from 200 milligrams to 100 milligrams, but I am still feeling the effects. I still have my uterus. I'm glad you put that last part in there, Jess, because I was going to ask you. If you had a hysterectomy, you don't need the progesterone to prevent uterine lining thickening. As long as you have a uterus, anytime you're on any type of estrogen, even synthetic, you need to be on some type of progesterone to help prevent the over-thickening of that uterus, which can increase your risk of endometrial cancers, uterine cancers. So for you, Jess, some women are very sensitive to that GABA receptor increase. Now, when progesterone is taken as an oral micronized version, any oral medication gets processed by the liver. We call this first-pass metabolism. When progesterone gets metabolized by the liver, it breaks down into what's called allopregnanolone, which is known colloquially as the Valium of the brain. It upregulates GABA receptors, which are these feel-good neurotransmitters in the brain. This is the biggest reason why most women with or without a uterus take it. Now, some women, I've seen this on several occasions, are very sensitive to these effects. And typically, decreasing the dosage is the key. And you have to wonder, at what dosage are we losing some of that uterine protection benefit, right? This is something we got to think about. There are other things we can do. Depending on if you're going, I'm assuming you're going to a compounding pharmacy, you can actually get extended release progesterone, which may make that increase in those GABA receptors a little bit more mild and tolerable for you. Worst case scenario, let's say you can't tolerate it at all, we can do creams. I will say the progesterone cream has not been shown in studies to be as effective at prevention of breast cancers. And there's always that question of, is it going to be effective enough to help prevent the excessive thickening of the uterine lining? That's something we always wonder about. Oral micronized progesterone does have a lot more literature to support its effects versus the cream. Now, another thing you can do that I've heard that I have not implemented myself is using essentially DHT blockers. So when testosterone is converted to DHT via 5-alpha reductase, people will take things like finasteride to help prevent their hair loss. Now, we can use these 5-alpha reductase inhibitors for progesterone as well, since 5-alpha reductase converts progesterone to allopregnanolone. And theoretically, when you're using this, you're preventing the conversion from progesterone to allopregnanolone. Now, with that being said, you got to realize any pathway that involves 5-alpha reductase and its conversion of one hormone to a downstream metabolite is going to be affected. So I'm not a huge fan of that, because what other pathways that we don't even know about are we affecting? So that's kind of a last resort. Some people have done it. It's not something I'm very well versed in. For me, it's usually dose adjustment, extended release, and then if needed, creams. Bobby G from Alabama. What's the difference between HGH and Samorelin? HGH is illegal here, but I can get Samorelin. But I heard it's not as good. What are your thoughts? Thanks. Well, HGH, human growth hormone, is basically a hormone that we make. It's growth hormone, and it helps with a variety of things, from our metabolism to repair of connective tissues to muscle growth. And Samorelin is a growth hormone secretagogue, meaning that it is a peptide that essentially tells the pituitary gland to secrete more growth hormone. Now, the difference is that if you're taking actual growth hormone, just like you do actual testosterone, you shut off your endogenous production because we're making so much. With Samorelin, we're producing our natural production, but we're stimulating additional production. And I have never been on HGH. I've been on Somorelin. I love it. And I have heard from several people that HGH is more effective. It's more powerful, which makes sense. But HGH is illegal in certain areas. Plus, it's very expensive under the brand name Omnitrope. And for the most part, it's really difficult to find compounded. So Somorelin is really your best bet, depending on what you're looking for, depending on what your goals are. I've used this for injury recovery. I do have some guys that use it just for body composition changes. It works fantastic. And with any peptide, taking it on an empty stomach, at least 2 hours after you eat a meal is going to help because it's not competing with insulin.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Hormones Happen. I hope you're walking away with some clarity and confidence. If this resonated with you, let's keep the conversation going. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, or over on the blog. And if you haven't yet subscribed yet, go ahead. It's the easiest way to keep growing and learning. As always, we believe in your power to heal, thrive, and lead. Be the hero of your own story.